Welcome back to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where we love to educate and inspire the community with topics around living healthier, feeling more balanced and living a life we love. And today we have Dr. Zara Chelik back with us, our integrative health and wellness expert. And the topic today is body dysmorphia. So welcome, Zara.
Thank you.
What is dysmorphia?
Well, dysmorphia comes from the word morphia, which means form. So usually that can occur in individuals where they are comparing themselves to somebody else. Usually they are infatuated with someone. When it comes to body dysmorphia, they're comparing their body parts to someone else. Or it could be also a comparison of intellectual capacity. They could be comparing themselves to say, oh, they're smarter than me. That's a form of dysmorphia. Or they're richer than me, or they're wealthier than me, or they've got better family than me. So they're all dysmorphia, but today let's focus on and talk about body dysmorphia. And in that, usually people comparing their body parts to someone else. I recently had a lady that I was actually talking to, and she went through a procedure, a cosmetic procedure, because she thought that the person that her boyfriend was actually following and watching on social media was more attractive than her. So she was looking to see what her boyfriend was actually, looking at in that individual, which was on social media, by the way, and in overseas. So she then thought, okay, well, she compared then her to herself. That was on social media. And she then took the step and went and did a cosmetic procedure because she was comparing her body part to this individual on social media. So I asked a question to her. I said, where have you perceived yourself having that form? She's very intelligent. And then she looked into it because I made her aware. She wasn't able to see that not only she also perceived herself attractive in the same form as the model was on social media, but also she had it in different forms, which was her intelligence, which was her career, which were her business and her education. And the minute she saw that, and she had that reflected awareness, because I made her aware by questioning her, she was able to accept and love her body for who she was, rather than comparing herself to some other person and try to become her, which she wasn't going to become her, right? She's an individual.
Yeah, if I may. And the other thing I just clicked with me is, of course, online you see these people and they're all, it's all, you can't tell exactly what they look like. Let's put it, what is it, Photoshop or whatever.
That too, yes.
It's being done all the time.
Exactly, and especially with our teenagers, right? They're sort of going through a stage in their life trying to work out who they are, and also they're comparing their body particularly to other people, and they want to become like them. I just want to tell them, embrace and love who you are and have reflective awareness about where do you display that form. And if it is the body, there's also a side of you, you're not just like disliking your body completely, not disowning it. I'm sure there are parts that you're also owning. So go to the parts that you're owning where you feel confident and comfortable and embrace that. And that could give you that confidence. So then you're not comparing yourself to others. And with, again, social media, like you said, it's not always the truth and the true reflection of things. And I want people to be aware of that as well, because that's huge. And not only in teenagers, I also have, a lot of women, mature women, even the language that they use about their body. I hate that about my body. The minute they do it, I pick up on that. It's like, where have you actually loved that part of you? So that's quite significant. And then immediately they go to their mind, the subconscious, and get into balancing the mind within themselves. So then they create the equity between themselves and the other person that they're comparing it to. So usually it's the comparison. They're trying to be like somebody. It's the comparison of things where the individual then starts having dysmorphia. Because I'm not fit enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not attractive enough, or my size isn't just like her or him. So that's where it all comes in. But once we create the that equity between the individual outside of us and ourselves, and the balance within our mind, that's where we actually overcome dysmorphia.
And does that then also, with the body dysmorphia, does that lead into things like anorexia and
It can, absolutely. So that's when, having that conflict within. That's why I said balancing the mind. So when there's that conflict, they will want to be like, oh, she's skinny, I'll just won't eat, or I will just, or bulimia is another one. They eat, they throw up, they always have that, up and down in the weight. They're always constantly comparing themselves to somebody else. And of course, yes, it can lead to anorexia and bulimia, for sure.
And so how does it, you've sort of said a bit about how it plays out, I suppose, but how does it then, how do you actually work with people with that to help them to overcome it or to help to feel better about it?
Yeah, great question. So I will encourage people, stop the minute they see they've infatuated with somebody and they've got this fantasy going, to stop and say, well, what is it exactly I'm admiring in that person? And where have I that displayed in me? Where do I have it also in my own form? In my intelligence, apart from the the looks, or even the looks, they may be comparing their the fitness of the arm, but see where else you are fit. They may be comparing the stomach area to somebody else. Well, go to form and find in other form. What part of your body do you love and own? So find the form that you love and the form that you're confident and comfortable with. So you dissolve the dysmorphia. For not everybody loves every single body part, but there are things that we really like and we just accentuate that and we bring that forward and we look at that and feel comfortable. And there's other parts where we may not feel very comfortable, but then there's that whole balance even in the body, and I want people to be aware of that. Even with our body parts, there's that balance. And once we become aware, say, hey, yes, I may not like my legs very much, but I love maybe my face or my hair or my eye, just giving an example. So I like people to find their own form and see what they're admiring in other persons actually within them once they find it.
And Zara, what advice would you give our viewers as a number one, a first thing?
Sure. So be aware of the language that you're using. Are you self-critical? That's a common one, right? And then when that creates the equity in the mind. So you are actually balancing your own mind through the thought process and the language that you have, and also contributing to the biochemistry of the mind. The other thing is when you catch yourself being infatuated or admiring someone so much, stop immediately and ask yourself the question, what is it exactly I'm admiring in them? And find it in your own form. Where have I admired myself? And find your form. And that will help you to create equity between you and the individual that you're admiring or infatuated with.
Great. Thank you, Zara.
My pleasure.
And for more information on Dr. Zara Celik and body dysmorphia, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And now we'll go to break. Welcome back, and today we have Steve Hall back with us, our holistic coach, and part of the series in Living a Life of Value and Meaning. Today's topic is our relationship with fear. So welcome back, Steve.
Thank you, Linda, and thanks for the introduction.
Our relationship with fear.
I know, right? A lot of people don't like fear, and I can well understand that. But we've been talking about how to love yourself more, how to connect with your values and your purpose in life. And fear is an important part of that, because people want to do things, they want to improve their life, they want to get better at what they're doing, and then they find something stopping them. And it's quite often the relationship with fear. So I thought it's worthwhile to explore that a little bit and find out what is our relationship with fear and how does that impact us.
With that in mind, how do we create a better relationship with fear?
I'll share a little bit about what I imagine in my own mind when I'm thinking about fear and when I'm realising the effect it's having on me, right? So I imagine my emotions. I like listening to them now, something that I learned along the way in my life. It's like, listen to your emotions, what they're telling you. Don't ignore them or try and push them away. So I imagine in my own mind, when I've got a dilemma or something, or I've got an emotion expressing itself, I imagine there's a boardroom, like a boardroom table in my mind with a chairman and all that, and the emotions are sitting at the table. And the emotion that is quite often the loudest is fear. And one thing that I've understood about fear, it's sort of like fear has anxiety itself. And the less my self-belief is turning up, the less self-belief I have in myself, the noisier my fear gets. So it's like my fear is present when I'm not, and learning who I am, what I value, and taking control of my life and responsibility is what has the most effect on fear. It's sort of like my fear calms down, and then it becomes just more like a warning, like a pet dog. I often find, my fear is a lot like a pet dog. It'll bark at something if it gets scared, right? And my job, if my self-belief is big enough, if I'm there, if I'm present, my job is, what's up, boy? Acknowledge that it's spoken and give it a pat and go, it's all right, I got this, I'm here. And it'll go, oh, thanks, you've noticed, you've listened to me, and it'll sit down. And that's what fear's like for me. It's like I've recreated what it means. It no longer controls me. I'm not scared of fear myself, because I realise now it's just trying to get my attention so I can be aware of something. And that's the relationship with fear that we all need to understand, so we can build our self-belief, and then we can achieve what it is we really want to achieve in our life. The things that we love, our mission, our values, our purpose, all of that is possible if fear is coming along for the ride and not calling the shots.
How would it tie in with that? How would we break free, really, of that fear that's...
See, fear is ever present, and it's meant to be. It's quite a useful emotion. It's not something that we need to overcome or overpower. A lot of our life, that's our first thing that we want to do with fear, is we want to stop it. We want to push it down, push it away, get away from it, distract ourselves. And this is what we find when we try and pursue what we love. We'll get distracted and we'll find that we can't achieve it. And people will say, why am I procrastinating? Well, fear can often be the cause. Fear gets too strong and we're not listening to it. We're trying to suppress it. So it's very important we get a good relationship, not just with fear, with all our emotions, but fear is a really important one to start with, because it's the one that's loudest. It wants reassurance most. So we have to give that reassurance to ourselves. Take a deep breath. We've talked about breathing before.
Oh, wonderful.
Deep breath, and it'll send a signal to ourselves and our emotions, I'm okay, I've got this. And then you can have that conversation with your emotions, fear being one of them.
So for our viewers, what would be the best advice from today with their fears?
It would be the breathing technique to start with, and start reflecting on, what do I really want here and what's really worrying me? So you take a deep breath in and you listen to what fear's expressing to you. What are you really worried about? If you write it down, is a good way. Just get to the point. What is that thing that I'm worried about? Because whatever the fear is telling us, we try and attach to everything and we start worrying about way too much. But when you write it down, you have to become quite specific, and you'll find that this might only be one thing, and it stops it bouncing around and like a snowball, getting bigger and bigger as it rolls downhill, and you can't go to sleep at night. it keeps you awake. So writing it down, becoming quite specific with what it is, and you go, actually, that's a little bit, a bit, it's good. Now I can focus on that. I'm not getting distracted. I'm not catastrophizing it. It's not getting out of control. Yeah, okay. And then you can sort of speak to your emotion. I've got this. Yeah, no, I can do that. And I want to do this, whatever it is. Like it might be giving a talk in front of people. I want to do this. And then your fear will it'll settle down. It'll still be there, but you'll have a good relationship with it. You just go, what am I really worried about? And if I have to write down, I'm nervous about what people will think when I'm talking to them, I'll see how that's nothing to get over dramatic about. It's not the end of life, the sky's not going to fall in. And that puts it in context for me. And I go, I've got this. Yeah, no, it's all right. And I reassure myself. And then I go, this is something I want. And honestly, the whole feeling changes. And I've really developed this technique to a point where I don't really worry about that sort of stuff anymore. So that's what it's all about. And it's connecting us with our values, what we love in life, and accepting all our emotions. It's really good.
Thanks so much, Steve. And for more from Steve and living a life of value and meaning, and specifically your relationship with fear, then please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll be back with another guest and another topic. Welcome back. And next we have Helen Mack back with us for the third in her series about optimising outcomes. And today it's about maintaining momentum. So over to you really, Helen. How do we maintain momentum?
Isn't it hard? Sometimes we get things going, we just get started and then something gets in our way and we grind to a halt. Or it just feels so hard that we never even get going in the first place. So maximising momentum is about taking advantage of the little improvements, of the little successes that we have along the way. So the idea here is one of the important elements is celebrating success, even tiny wee ones. Often we wait to celebrate until a big thing has happened, until we've achieved something wonderful and marvellous, and it just gets so hard to keep going because the good goals, the big goals that we achieve during our lives, whether that be a community goal, a family goal, a health goal, a wealth goal, whatever, they're not going to happen overnight. The big ones take time and effort. If we don't take time out along the way to go, yay, I made a tiny step forward. Yay, I made that adjustment. If we don't celebrate along the way, then it can very much feel like a grind. So maximising momentum is partially about celebrating the baby steps along the way and not waiting until the end for the big party. As you and I know, sometimes goals change. If you wait till the end, you might not get to the end that you thought it was going to be. You might have had a detour and end up in a completely different outcome in terms of what you want to be able to celebrate. So as a very small example, I got married in isolation. So we had all kinds of plans for this fabulous wedding ceremony that we were going to have, and it ended up being me and my beautiful new husband and 8 friends in a library at his farm. It was wonderful, but if we had only chosen to celebrate the big event, then we wouldn't have been celebrating the little wins along the way, the little pieces of the puzzle that fell in, the fact that my dress arrived 48 hours before the wedding, that was a celebration. So all of those little pieces kept us going at a time when sometimes it felt really, really hard. We need to make sure that we're recognising our efforts and the efforts of others in our team, our crew, our family, our group. Recognising other people's efforts can also help our momentum build and grow.
It can even be, because I was just tuned into that, I kind of heard a lot of this stuff, and then I thought, what really clicked with me was something like, and I'm sure you use this, is like giving yourself a treat when you get to a certain stage, or really celebrating it in a way that is important for you.
And what you've said there is perfect. What's important to you. So what you might use to celebrate and what someone else might use to celebrate can be two completely different things. And I think we also have an unfortunate habit of deciding that we're going to celebrate with big stuff. So as an example, I'm a reader, I love reading, and so a treat could be just spending an hour with a book curled up in a corner, or it could be going and buying a book, whether that be online or wandering to a bookshop. One of my very good friends and business partners, what he does is when he's achieved a small goal that he wants to celebrate, he takes himself off to the movies. He has 3 young children. He goes to the movies to watch a U-Butte, boys kind of adventure flick, no children, popcorn, relax, do nothing for a couple of hours, and then comes out refreshed and ready to take the next step. So there's no rules about what the celebration has to be.
No, that's wonderful. It just is what boosts your optimism, isn't
Correct.
it?
What makes you feel good, yeah.
Great. How we can maintain an optimistic attitude, especially, there's always changes happening in life. We always have the things evolving, as you've been sharing in previous segments. And how can we maintain that?
So when we're looking at maintaining momentum, the optimistic attitude is clearly part of it. We need to be able to roll with the punches. We need to deal with the ups and downs. I think if life was just flat and everything was the same all the time, it would be quite boring. But we do have to deal with peaks and troughs. We have to deal with detours and obstacles. And to maintain momentum, we have to do two things simultaneously. We have to keep our eye on the prize. So we have to keep one eye, if you like, on the ultimate goal, and keep checking that we're still on path for that, or has the detour taken us somewhere we like? And then the second piece is that we need to keep an eye on the road ahead of us. Is there a dirty great big hole? Do we need to detour? Are there things that we need to adjust so that we don't have too many troughs? Because sometimes the troughs that we fall in are of our own making. Sometimes we need to make sure that we don't fall into those troughs. But if we do, that's okay. We're allowed to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and take the next step.
Such a thing as too much of a good thing, too much momentum about going forward?
Yeah, I think sometimes if we're changing too fast or taking on too many new things, our system goes into shock. And so too much momentum, too much change can be exhausting. So it's great to really get yourself going, but make sure that you're monitoring your energy levels. Make sure that you are filling yourself up both with food and water, like the general, nutrition type things, but also with hanging out with good people, putting in some positive or affirming information into your head, making sure that you're not spending time with people who are naysayers about your goal. So too much momentum can be exhausting, and if we get too fast, we sometimes just need to go, okay, I just need a time out. Sometimes too much momentum will take us past the point where we should have made an adjustment, and when we end up at the other end of the road, we'll go, this isn't quite where I want it to be.
And easy to go off course then, I suppose, and go off on the path and suddenly realise that that's not really good feeling for me.
That's right. If we go back to our questions from last time, just checking in with the why. Why was I doing this in the first place is a good way to check. And from years ago, I remember going to a training around goal setting in the business, in the corporate kind of sense, and they said, it's all very good to be climbing the ladder, but every now and then you have to make sure that it's leaning up against the right wall.
Thank you, Helen. And we'll finish the show now on that. And for more information on Helen Mack and optimising outcomes and maintaining your momentum, then please go to her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And we'll be back with Helen next time talking about how to maintain an optimistic mindset.